Welcome to Commanders Daily, everybody. I'm Bob Matthews. It's your one-stop shop for everything going on with the Burgundy and Gold. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We are smack dab in the middle of grind season right now. We've been saying it all week, and we will keep saying it until training camp starts. But, this is the time of year when everybody goes their separate ways. Coaches are still in the building, but all of the players are either training on their own or training outside of the watchful eye of the coaches at the facility in Ashburn, and no real way to know who is doing what and where. Suffice to say that, obviously a Dan Quinn coach team, everybody is doing what they are supposed to do this time of year to make sure they're in shape when training camp starts. So we're going to start today as we kind of started yesterday. Just in case you missed it yesterday, the Commanders went ahead and released all of their training camp information, at least when it comes to the dates. So we are, as of today, 29 days from rookies reporting to training camp. That's right. July 18th is the day that rookies report to training camp. Veterans will then report on the 22nd. There will be a joint practice session with the New England Patriots on August 6th, and then a joint practice with the Ravens on August 21st. As we said yesterday, that's important because if you remember, there have been several years where the Commanders couldn't get anyone to agree to a joint practice with them. This year, they've got two of them. And again, as players will tell you across the league, in the modern NFL, what counts even more than preseason games are those joint practices. That's where especially the veterans get the majority of their work in getting game shape ready, is those joint practices. So those are the dates for you. The first two big ones that come up, July 18th and then July 22nd. Wrapping up some of the things that we saw in OTAs in minicamp, we got one guy that's making a little bit of a name for himself, making a little bit of noise and generating a little bit of smoke, and that is rookie tight end Colson Yankoff. I know if Beavis and Butthead were here, they would be laughing when it comes to his last name. However, he really turned some heads in OTAs and in minicamp, and he really should. He's 6'4", great athlete out of UCLA. Was a special teams standout and grew into a really good pass catcher in college. And the coaches have been heaping a lot of praise on him. Remember, they expect a lot out of Ben Stennett. If Stennett, kind of stumbles coming out of the gate, you could see Yankoff getting a lot of time and maybe even taking some snaps away from Stennett. Remember, what the Commanders need is another pass-catching tight end to go along with Zach Ertz. In addition to the fact that Ertz is 34, John Bates is more of the blocking tight end. But you want a guy in there. You need another pass-catching tight end so that you can run 12 personnel, so that you can have two pass-catching tight ends on the field at the same time. Really opens up the playbook for the offense if that can happen. So if Yankoff can both push Sennett and also, they get some production out of them, there's a chance that, this tight end group could be growing into what the front office and what the coaching staff wants. Obviously remains to be seen. He has played exactly 0 snaps in the NFL, but Colson Yankoff is a guy you are going to want to keep your eye on once training camp and once the preseason starts. A lot of talk about who is the second most valuable player or most important player on this roster. Obviously, the most important one is Jaden Daniels, and we have gone chapter and verse into why, in addition to the fact that he's the quarterback. In the modern NFL, the difference in talent, and I have said this for years, the difference in talent between the Carolina Panthers and the Kansas City Chiefs is razor thin. Everything is so even talent-wise that it only takes a couple of players in key positions for a team to reach the inflection point and go from an also-ran or a bottom dweller to a legitimate championship contender. And obviously, quarterback is the most important position today in the NFL. So if you've got a top 5 or top 10 guy, that automatically vaults you into the conversation of who is going to play in the Super Bowl in February. But next to Daniels, who would you say is the most important player on this roster? This probably is not breaking a lot of new ground. I know that it's probably not much of a hot take, but at this point, I'm going with Laramie Tunstall. Yeah, even over Terry McLaurin. You got to protect Jaden Daniels' blind side. And I think that both the coaching staff and the front office feel the same way. That's why they gave up the amount of picks they did for Tunstall. He's an all-pro left tackle, and he is, as you know, one of the most important guys there on the roster, one of the most important guys on the line, and, you know, as one of the best in the business these days. I don't think that you can seriously consider yourself a contender if you don't have a left tackle that can lock it down. Also, I think he is going to be tremendously helped by having Brandon Coleman, last year's third-round pick out of TCU, who started at left tackle down the stretch, kicking inside to left guard. I think that all of a sudden makes the line a hell of a lot better than it was last year. Want Tunstall to stay healthy, obviously, but with the depth that they've now got, I think that it is easy to say Laramie Tunstall is definitely the second most important guy on the roster for the Commanders. Finally, there was a small but important thing that happened this week that shows you exactly how the culture really has shifted out in Ashburn. And it's something you may not have even noticed, but the Commanders posted, and I'm looking at the screen grab now, I believe it was on their Twitter page, but they posted a message congratulating the Washington Defenders of the UFL for winning the UFL championship. They beat Michigan 58-34 to win the UFL title, and the Commanders congratulated them for it. Why is this an important sign of a culture change? Before this happened, the previous regime, the previous ownership that we don't like to mention anymore, this would have never happened. It was moving heaven and earth to get this organization just to acknowledge the Caps when they won the Stanley Cup and the Nationals when they won the World Series. You would never see social media posts where the Commanders would be encouraging, cheering on, and congratulating a fellow, Washington sports team. The way it worked under Dan Snyder was, we're the Redskins, we don't care. Screw the rest of you guys, which is just not reality anymore. There's way too much competition for the dollar out there, and it's good to see that this ownership group realizes that you can't just trade on your name and trade on those 3 Super Bowl trophies from the 80s and 90s. You got to constantly be out there making sure that you're keeping the deal with your fans and with the public. So I'm really glad to see that. Like I said, a small but important culture change. All right, that's going to do it for us. We got to get out of here. Hey, have you a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week. Remember, don't forget, hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you to all of our subscribers out there. We could not do this without you. We appreciate it. And as always, like the wise man once said, if you're on your bike tonight, as always, do wear white.